famous way to describe the mind. If you have a lake where the water is disturbed, then you will not be able to look in the bottom of the lake. To be able to see within, you need to have the lake calming down. The same way, we use our minds as instrument to take all decisions. Now, our minds may end up taking decisions under emotional compulsions or some other reasons. So, but if we can calm our mind down, make it dispassionate before we take important decisions, we'll probably come up with most appropriate decisions.
Hi everyone, welcome to Now Boarding, a new travel podcast by me, Payal Nair. This show aims at creating awareness about ecotourism, sustainable tourism, responsible travel, and a lot more. We will cover stories and journeys of people who are ecotourism specialists and those who are leaders in their field. We will also be talking to people who have had unique travel experiences, remarkable conceptual places to stay, unexplored cultures, and ancient histories of various towns and cities around the world. Join me in this journey of knowing more about travel. Get inspired to see the world and discover your inner self. Hi everyone, today I am in conversation with two very dynamic people. They are a husband and wife duo, Pawan Kapoor and Dr. Poonam Kapoor. So it's going to be challenging to introduce them as quickly as I can because they both have very impactful resumes, so to speak, but I will introduce them all the same. So Pawan is a teacher at heart, as he says. He has over 4.5 decades of professional experience in technical, managerial, and leadership roles, which is interestingly blended with the philosophy, science, and practices of authentic yoga as a way of life. He is the founder and head of the ISF group, and he's a successful entrepreneur. He also has set up, along with his wife, Dr. Poonam Kapoor, it's called the Confluence, and it is a center of yoga, science, and sustainability. Over to you, Poonam. You embody a unique blend of expertise and passion across multiple domains. Poonam is a Ph.D. in economics. She's a counselor, she's an entrepreneur, she's a trained yoga expert, she's a social worker, and I think her multifaceted profile reflects a commitment to holistic well-being and positive change. Wow. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me today on Now Boarding.
Thank you for having us here.
Thanks for a lovely intro. Thank you so much.
Great. So let's kickstart the conversation by just getting a little very brief background on both of you, and more importantly, how you got involved in yoga, science, and sustainability.
My background is basically I'm a marine engineer, and I went to the engineering college way back in 1976 for a 4-year stint in Calcutta. And after sailing for about 10 years, I took up a shore job. And actually for last 33 years, most of the time has been with maritime education and training. And along the way, I had the opportunity of not just teaching, but also setting up institutes. And as far as yoga is concerned, I first got introduced when I was hardly 21, 22 years of age. And ever since then, have been involved, have been practicing. I would say not very diligently, but it has been kind of part of a daily routine, you could say. And not just the physical part of yoga, but we also got introduced to the philosophy and psychology involved. Sustainability is something that we actually got, I would say, introduced about 5 years back. We came across United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and we run a company, so we felt that probably we could adopt these goals as our company goals. Around the same time, we were looking for also to set up an ashram. Actually, the Confluence that you see now it was thought as an ashram, which has taken a more contemporary shape as it got developed. And we felt that yoga science, as we have been introduced and taught, relates beautifully with the whole concept of sustainability. Because for sustainability to happen, human beings have to really transform the way they think, the way they act, and the way they feel. So we felt that why not integrate the two aspects? And that is what gave birth to Confluence as we see now. So that's about myself and the project. Over to you, Poonam.
So I start as a child, yeah. If I, as far as I remember, probably moral science classes were the starting point of appreciating how things should be. And I was a very diligent and studious child. So somewhere I was like very much into all those things as a child. And unknowingly, I was doing things which later on I realized they are known as yoga as a way of life. But as a if those are things coming from yoga as a science given by Patanjali, I realized much later, like after my marriage and going through yoga classes and doing yoga's teachers training program, that was an eye opener. When I realized that yoga doesn't start on a mat and doesn't end with the folding of a mat. It is a way of life when we say how to behave, how to act, how to think. Why? Because we want to be more at peace with ourselves. We want to be more at peace with surroundings. So that is something which has really stayed. And somewhere we followed, like I followed, then we had two kids while raising them up, going through their education, working along with him. Somewhere it remained as an underline of our entire married life, probably. So somewhere or other, and then of course I got into the teachers training program in Institute Yoga Institute in Santa Cruz. We were in touch with Himalayan Institute of Sciences, and also visited their Honesdale Center, where we were in touch with things. And of course, because of my love for study, so I've gone through the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and that has really opened up the entire mind.
So for people who don't really understand what you said Patanjali Yoga is, very quickly, if you could just give a brief idea on what really the philosophy of that is.
Yes. So Patanjali is supposed to be, or is said to be, a codifier of his yoga science, which it means that the science was already there. He's the person who has given us in a written format, in a very short sutra. Sutras are something where in capsule format, the intense teaching in a capsule format. So he gives us a way of life. Like when we said the human being, what we are seeking, we want to live happy life. So he has given a very scientific and systematic path, which is start with yamas and niyamas, which is like how you handle yourself with others. So the har and vihar and achar and vichar, we will be talking about those things. And then asanas, of course, asanas are physical practices. Why physical practices? Because body has to be at ease. We need to be at ease, not because we want to stand on our head, not because we want to touch our toes without bending our knees. No, the idea is to be at peace at the physical level.
So the asana, physical peace and inner peace.
Yes. So inner peace, how we can attain. So he gives the next level. Next step is a pranayam, which we all know, the awareness about the breathing, because that is a subtler aspect which connects us with our mind. Then we go from breathing, pratyahara, dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. So pratyahara, where we are withdrawing our senses, like too much indulgence into outside world, too much indulgence into gratification, start becoming aware on those points. Then the dharana is typically concentration, which is the next step, which leads us to dhyan, which is, we call it meditation. And then of course, samadhi is the ultimate reality where you may, if somebody is working, can touch the oneness with everything around, where the concept of sustainability comes in. Because if I am here or I want to be happy, then you need to be happy and good, and the others, and my source of water and my source of air and my source of food, everything should be in harmony with each other. So the principle of sustainability comes in. So this is how. So then you start realizing the beauty of everything. And it is working on yourself every day, every moment. That is yoga for us, which is a way of life, of course.
So, can you tell my listeners, viewers, and me a little bit about the kind of programs that you offer within your campus?
You can.
Yeah, currently what we are looking at is to design and develop and offer programs which can reach across to different spectrum of the society. We are looking at programs for corporates, people who are professionals, which would typically be management programs. Now, we have a firm belief that while we may learn the art and science of management in a business school, the instrument through which the management takes place is our own selves. Again, what Poonam just mentioned, the body, the mind, the emotions. What about self-management? So, for example, we are running a program over the coming weekend, which will be Sustainable Leadership and Management Retreat. So essentially, we will cover some basic aspects of core management, whether accounting or finance and so on and so forth. But we will also have a good amount of self-management brought in, where we bring in the yoga practices, whether it is simple asanas or doing some deep breathing or learning to do pranayama or basics of meditation, which allow you to sit still, calmly, be able to quieten the mind. Because as there's a very famous way to describe the mind, if you have a lake where the water is disturbed, then you will not be able to look into the bottom of the lake. To be able to see within, you need to have the lake calming down. The same way, we use our minds as instrument to take all decisions. Now, our minds may end up taking decisions under emotional compulsions or some other reasons. So, but if we can calm our mind down, make it dispassionate before we take important decisions, we'll probably come up with most appropriate decisions. So that's why our intention is to run programs for professionals. That is one aspect. We will be running programs for children, introducing them to the whole idea of yoga, sitting still, breathing practices, for householders, for even education and I would say training professionals. Because we also believe that for a teacher to be able to communicate effectively, to become a good listener so that he understands what a student may be needing at a given point of time. We are good teachers and we have had good teachers in our life because they could communicate to us and very often they could communicate what we were seeking. For that, a teacher has to be a good listener. So again, certain practices of yoga allow you to become better listeners also. So these are the programs for professionals, for teachers, for householders, children, everybody across the board.
So, some of the initiatives that you've taken on a daily basis in terms of sustainability, what are some of the things that you've implemented on a community aside in terms of sustainable practices? Some of the, you mentioned earlier about the sustainable development goals, right? So, which one of those goals have you actually incorporated onto your campus as well as your business?
Yeah, the first and I would say most important is to conserve the energy. That's critical. So we have decided not to go in for air conditioning of the spaces. While constructing, we were exploring what material would be most suitable to carry out construction. And actually, that also made us realize that while we have started to talk a lot about sustainability globally, the availability of right material in right quantities is still a big problem. So we finally chose laterite stone, which is typically available in the Konkan region of Indian coast. It's a red colored stone and it normally comes in sizes where, and it's too much of heat transfer through it. So we chose to, while we chose chose to go for a normal RCC framework because we wanted a bit of flexibility and long-term durability. But we got laterite stone where we have not done any plastering of walls from the outside, only from inside we did. Then we have chosen to also keep the openings of the windows less on the southeast side because that is where the sun really is active for most part of the day. So we took care of certain design aspects as best as we could learn from people around to do that. That's why we are not going to use any air conditioning out here. That was the first step. We have also solar is something we were contemplating, but we realized our overall consumption of electricity is so low that we also had to look at the resources that we had available. So we chose not to go for solar at this stage. Maybe down the line, as the consumptions go up, then we may do. Water is something that we are trying to conserve. And because we take the water from the bore wells, and somehow in this part of the country, we have to really bore quite deep to get water. So we are now working on a rainwater harvesting system by which we will charge the bore wells directly from the rainwater collected during the monsoons, which is active for 4 months in a year. So that's how we will take care of that aspect.
And plantation of trees.
Plantation plenty. We had 200
year.
plus trees already in the beginning. We have planted close to 200 more already. And now we have started to see them growing. We are trying to see whatever power we consume, whatever carbon footprint we may create, we should be able to offset that by enough greenery around. So that is our goal at this stage. But honestly, we are also slowly learning more.
Garbage management system also.
Yeah, garbage management system is coming in. We've got a composter already. And now with the cows coming in, probably we'll utilize some of the cow dung to create
for things.
Compost.
Yeah, and we are also, I'm talking with another Gram Panchayat here. There is a concept of a small villages coming together and forming a group Gram Panchayat, as it is known as, which is like a cluster of many panchayat. So I'm also discussing with them to have some kind of a garbage segregation and management system for villages around us. So that is now coming because currently there is no garbage collection system in the remote areas, which I'm working on. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I must say this, that we used to think that in the villages, people are more aware about nature. But it's very unfortunate that with the amount of plastic which moves around the entire country, and people do not know how to segregate. So we are trying to make it also zero garbage campus. So we'll reduce any plastic coming in. And in-house, whatever we have should be recycled as best possible. So these are some of the initiatives. Plus, we are learning. I'll be honest with you, there's still so much to learn about nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as an organization.
If you've always had a city life, you take so much for granted, and so much is in terms of nature that is not appreciated because you're in a concrete jungle. So I think it's great that with this initiative, you personally are also enhancing your learning.
Yes.
Oh, amazing. It's tremendous. And it's very, very satisfying, to be honest.
Satisfying and therapeutic as well, I'm sure. Yeah.
Like a couple of years back, we have always been talking about environment, reduce the plastic waste. But whenever we are outside or attending any programs, seminars or weddings, we would just simply pick up a bottle, open a drink and leave it.
Yeah.
But now when we are managing this place, we think 100 times before picking a bottle. So here even to our guests, we are providing them a bottles. We are putting the dispensers and waters everywhere, and we are requesting them just please refill it. Take it back with you. Do not create. When you have to do it as against when you are just reading it, it makes a lot of difference. Because initially when we were coming here, we used to come here with a lot of drinking water bottles and toilet paper rolls. And the waste, we didn't know what to do with so much of waste. We used to take it back to Mumbai. So a couple of times we did that. Then we realized, no, we need to have those dispensers and a small step. And now it's like a thing in a campus that it's one of what you can do as a guest. So first thing is take your bottle, fill it up from any point. Do not create waste.
Because I think education, this is
Yeah.
also a form of education, and educating your guests will then, when they have left whatever program they were a part of or whatever, or they've left the campus, they in turn will reflect and then probably start following these practices and then educate others. So it just becomes like a chain of,
You're right.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah. Okay, so this conversation is so interesting. We could just be talking for the next couple
we
of
have
hours, but I think I'll have to cap it. So I just want to ask you, how do you hope to inspire others to, through these practices, of course, which we've just talked about, but some other sustainable living principles that they can incorporate into their daily lives through yoga practices, through whatever method that you are looking at incorporating in your campus?
That's a very interesting and deep question. It's a
I
deep
would
one.
love to have an answer. Yeah.
So I think, Payal, the idea here, more than inspiring, it's more, I would call it sharing, is to, we always say, and probably in yoga more so, uh, even like flying, that put your mask on first, save yourself. So become aware about yourself first, like selfish in a true, honest self. So first identify what is that is holding you back in contributing, in being peaceful. What is that? So probably that's how I see it. The sharing is mainly to make person or people aware about where they are standing and from where, how they can move ahead. So that is the one thing for me, I will say. Pawan,
Yeah, I would say, I think our responsibility is to maintain and run this campus and keep developing these sustainable practices as we move along with utmost sincerity. And our belief is that when people come here and spend some time doing any program for that matter, as they move around, the environment would finally influence them. And I think that is how they will imbibe them. Because honestly, adults do not learn by lecturing.
Yeah.
As adults, we only learn when we become open to learning. And typically, although it may sound a bit negative, adversity is the best teacher in life. Because as long as everything is going good, we don't even feel the need to look if something that I'm doing currently is not right. So our aim is purely to run the campus with utmost sincerity as we have conceived. And we are hoping that as people come here, they will imbibe some of the practices that we follow. If we we talk about sustainable development goals, even about women empowerment, the education, all those goals which are there, as we are working with the local communities, they will all kind of start to materialize, fructify all those things that we have in mind. So I feel that is the best way to communicate something is by doing it yourself with utmost sincerity. And any sensitive human beings will definitely catch up and be able to see, yeah, it works. And if you can demonstrate that, yes, you can maintain an 8-acre campus with care and understanding and ensure that the ecosystem remains in balance as best possible, I think that's a good take home for anybody. That's who feel.
Yeah,
I hope we could answer your question. Is
no,
it?
you absolutely did. Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you. It's just been a very enlightening conversation, even for me. And I've had, by listening to you, there are so many things that I've become aware of. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much once again, and more power to both of you. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Now Boarding, a travel podcast. Check out other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. And of course, don't forget to share your thoughts with us. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes only on Now Boarding, a travel podcast.